It's happening right now. U.S. tourism is collapsing, and Canada is the reason. That's right, travelers are choosing the North over the South, and states across America are feeling the consequences. In 2025, Canada's boycott of U.S. tourism is costing American states billions. With restrictions tightening, flights canceled, and road trips to U.S. hotspots becoming less frequent, American businesses are left scrambling. If this trend continues, the financial fallout will be catastrophic, and these 10 states could be the first to fall. The numbers are staggering. $29 billion could be lost in 2025 alone, and U.S. states with the highest dependency on Canadian travelers are bracing for a devastating drop in revenue. Before we move on, hit the like button to boost this video in the algorithm and support our work. Number 10. Florida. Florida, the Sunshine State, is staring down the barrel of a tourism crisis. For years, Canadian travelers flocked to Florida's beaches, theme parks, and resorts, contributing billions to the state's economy. But in 2025, the landscape is changing fast. According to U.S. News and World Report, Canadian travel to the U.S. has dropped by over 20% this year, and Florida is feeling it hard. And analysts estimates that a mere 10% decline in Canadian travel could cost the U.S. economy $2.1 billion and lead to 14,000 job losses. In fact, Florida has already reported a $3 billion loss in tourism revenue, with cities like Orlando and Miami seeing hotel bookings plummet. The state's tourism-dependent economy is seeing the ripple effects. Hotels are empty, theme parks are quieter, and local businesses are losing customers. Forbes reported that Disney World's attendance dropped 15% compared to last year, with a massive decline in Canadian visitors. Travel and hospitality industries in Florida rely heavily on international tourism, and the loss of Canadian dollars is threatening thousands of jobs in the sector. Local businesses are reporting a 15% to 20% decrease in sales, with no signs of recovery as Canadian travelers continue to stay away. But that's not all. If the trend continues, Florida's tourism could take a decade to fully recover, and it might not ever be the same again. Number 9. California. California, the land of endless sunshine, Hollywood dreams, and global tourism, is facing a new crisis. With Canadian visitors dropping significantly, California's massive tourism industry is feeling the heat. According to a report by ABC Mundial, Canadian tourists traditionally contribute billions to California's economy. From Los Angeles to San Francisco, Canada has long been a top source of international visitors. But in 2025, the situation is drastically different. With Canadian tourism to the U.S. down by 20%, California's iconic attractions are seeing far fewer visitors. San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge, once a prime photo opportunity for Canadians, is practically empty during peak travel season. In 2025 alone, the state has already lost nearly $4 billion in tourism revenue, a staggering blow to local economies that rely on this income. And it's not just the major cities. California's coastal resorts, wine regions, and theme parks are all facing massive downturns. Forbes revealed that the loss of Canadian tourists is hitting California's high-end hotels and wineries the hardest. These industries, which typically rely on foreign tourism to boost sales, are now struggling to fill rooms and tables. California's tourism economy, which accounts for nearly $130 billion annually, is now facing a severe contraction. And if the trend continues, the state could be in for a long-term economic setback, especially in areas that rely on Canadian visitors for their survival. Number 8. Nevada. Nevada, known for its vibrant casinos and entertainment in Las Vegas, is another state deeply affected by the decline in Canadian tourism. With Canadian visitors making up a significant portion of Las Vegas's tourism market, the city is struggling to stay afloat amid a devastating tourism slump. According to Travel and Tour World, reports international visits to Las Vegas are down 6.5% year-over-year, with Canadian air arrivals dipping 22% in May compared to the previous year, pointing to Canadians as a key driver of the decline. In 2025, the state has already lost $1.5 billion in tourism revenue, with a notable dip in bookings for hotels, casinos, and resorts. Travel Weekly reported that Las Vegas casinos are seeing a 15% decrease in Canadian customers, which is hitting profits hard. Major players like MGM Resorts and Caesars Entertainment are feeling the squeeze, with some hotels reporting empty rooms during what should be peak season. Moreover, Nevada's tourism industry relies heavily on events, and with fewer Canadians attending conventions and shows, Local businesses are struggling. According to U.S. Travel Association, convention and exhibition centers are seeing a 12% drop in attendance, significantly impacting revenue for local vendors, restaurants, and shops. As Canadian tourists turn their attention to other destinations, Nevada faces an uncertain future for its tourism industry. If these trends persist, the state might struggle to recover, leaving its economy in serious jeopardy. Number 7. New York. New York, the city that never sleeps, is starting to wake up to a disturbing reality. Canadian tourism, which once flowed freely through the Big Apple's iconic streets, is now dramatically declining, and it's hitting the state's economy hard. ABC Mondial reports that Canadian visitors traditionally make up over 25% of New York's international tourism, spending money in everything from Broadway shows to shopping sprees on Fifth Avenue. However, in 2025, New York is facing a huge drop in Canadian visitors, with tourism revenue plummeting by $2 billion in the first quarter alone. Popular destinations like Times Square, Central Park, and the Empire State Building are no longer bustling with Canadian families and tourists. Forbes noted that hotel bookings are down by 17%, and this is being felt across the city's retail sector as well. The impacts are also being felt upstate, where cities like Buffalo and Albany have seen a 25% decline in Canadian visitors. The fall-off in tourist spending has caused local businesses, restaurants, and entertainment venues to struggle to keep their doors open. The hospitality sector, which depends on a steady stream of tourists, is facing mass layoffs, leaving many workers uncertain about the future. If New York can't turn this around, its reputation as a global tourist destination could be seriously threatened, leaving the state's economy grappling with a long-term downturn. Number 6. Texas. Texas, the Lone Star State, is known for its proud, independent spirit, but its tourism sector is struggling under the weight of Canada's tourism boycott. In 2025, Texas is facing a sharp decline in Canadian visitors, particularly to major cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston. According to Texas Travel, Canadian tourists accounted for over $400 million in revenue to Texas in 2023 alone, with many flocking to attractions like the Texas State Fair, museums, and the state's world-class restaurants. However, as Canadian travelers opt to spend their vacation dollars in other parts of the world, Texas is seeing a 15% drop in international tourists, which is translating into huge losses for the state's economy. The Houston Chronicle reported that local hotels and attractions in cities like Austin are seeing booking declines of over 18% as Canadian tourists stay home. Texas's tourism-heavy sectors, including hotel and event-based businesses, are feeling the pain. In some areas, restaurants are reporting a 10% drop in overall revenue, and event venues have seen bookings fall by nearly 20% as a result of fewer Canadian visitors. With flights from major Canadian cities like Toronto and Vancouver significantly reduced, the recovery for Texas tourism could take years. If these trends continue, Texas could lose its crown as a top tourism destination, leaving billions in lost revenue and thousands of jobs hanging in the balance. Before we dive into the next state, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us shine a light on the stories others ignore and bring truth to the surface. Number 5. Minnesota. Minnesota, known for its picturesque lakes and outdoor adventures, is now facing the worst tourism crisis in recent history. Canadian travelers have long been a crucial part of the state's tourism economy, especially in cities like Minneapolis and the Lakes region. But in 2025, the tourism numbers are looking grim. With Canadian travel to the U.S. plummeting by 20% this year, Minnesota is feeling the financial strain. The state has already reported a $1.1 billion drop in tourism revenue. Popular destinations like the Mall of America, which draws a large portion of its visitors from Canada, are seeing foot traffic decline significantly. Travel Weekly reported that hotel bookings are down by 18% in the Twin Cities area, a severe blow to the hospitality sector. Minnesota's tourism industry is also facing layoffs. According to U.S. Travel Association, Hyatt Hotel in Minnesota are now reducing their staff by as much as 15%, while restaurants, event venues, and guided tours are seeing a 30% drop in Canadian patrons. The state's tourism season is short, and without Canadian visitors, many businesses are struggling to stay afloat. The loss of Canadian tourism in Minnesota isn't just a financial hit. It's a blow to the state's vibrant hospitality industry and its ability to attract international travelers. If trends continue, Minnesota could see a major recession in its tourism sector. Number 4. North Dakota. North Dakota, one of America's most overlooked tourist destinations, is now facing a crisis it never saw coming. Historically, the state has relied on domestic travelers and a significant number of Canadians who visit the region for outdoor activities, the state fair, and cultural experiences. However, with Canadian tourism declining by over 20% this year, North Dakota's economy is suffering. The state has reported a record tourism year in 2024, with $548 million in hotel revenue and over $2.2 billion in accommodations and food service tax receipts, evidence of growth rather than decline, which is particularly devastating for small towns and rural areas that depend heavily on tourism dollars. In cities like Fargo and Bismarck, hotel bookings are down by 12%, and local attractions, such as the North Dakota Heritage Center and Theodore Roosevelt National Park, are seeing significantly fewer visitors. Local businesses that cater to tourists, including restaurants, retail shops, and tour operators, are struggling to stay open, and up to 10% of tourism-related jobs have already been cut. For a state with limited tourism infrastructure and a small population, this sudden downturn could have long-lasting effects. If Canadian visitors continue to stay away, North Dakota may find it increasingly difficult to recover, leaving its local economies teetering on the brink. Number 3. Michigan. Michigan, home to the Great Lakes and iconic cities like Detroit and Grand Rapids, is now staring down the reality of a tourism crisis as Canadian visitors rapidly decline. For years, Michigan has relied heavily on tourists from across the border, especially during the summer months. But in 2025, the landscape is changing, and the economic implications are severe. Canada has historically been a top source of international visitors to Michigan, accounting for over $400 million in tourism revenue annually. But now, with the ongoing decline in Canadian travel, Michigan has already reported a $350 million drop in tourism earnings. Local tourism boards in Detroit, Lansing, and the Upper Peninsula are seeing hotel occupancy rates fall by up to 18%. Many Michigan attractions, including the Henry Ford Museum, Mackinac Island, and the Detroit Zoo, are feeling the strain. U.S. Travel Association revealed that the state has witnessed a 20% decrease in Canadian tourists visiting key destinations like the Detroit casinos, especially in the peak travel months of summer and fall. Small businesses, particularly those in hospitality and retail, are being hit hardest. According to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, up to 10,000 tourism-related jobs could be at risk, and without a recovery in Canadian visitors, Michigan's local economies could continue to flounder. Number 2. Washington. Washington State, known for its stunning natural beauty, tech hubs like Seattle, and the iconic Mount Rainier, is facing an increasingly dire situation. With Canadian tourism down by 20% this year, Washington is one of the hardest-hit states in the U.S. as its once-thriving tourism industry shrinks. Canada has long been a top source of tourists to Washington, particularly in areas like Seattle and the Puget Sound. In 2024, Canadian visitors spent over $584 million in the state. The decline is being felt across the state, from the bustling streets of Seattle's Pike Place Market to the serene landscapes of the Olympic National Park. Hotels and attractions like the Space Needle are experiencing a 25% dip in Canadian bookings, and the local restaurant industry is seeing a 10% drop in sales due to fewer visitors. The tourism downturn in Washington isn't just about dollars, it's about jobs. Thousands of workers in hospitality, retail, and transportation are facing uncertainty as the tourism sector continues to falter. If Canadian tourists don't return, Washington's economy could suffer a long-term recession. Number 1. Hawaii. Hawaii, the paradise of the Pacific, is one of the hardest-hit states due to the decline in Canadian tourism. With its pristine beaches, tropical landscapes, and world-renowned resorts, Hawaii has long been a popular destination for Canadian travelers. In 2025, however, this once-thriving tourism hotspot is now struggling to maintain its global appeal. In 2024, Canadian visitors made up more than 12% of Hawaii's international tourism market, contributing billions of dollars to the state's economy. But since the start of 2025, Hawaii has already seen a 15% decrease in Canadian visitors. According to U.S. Travel Association, the state has lost over $1 billion in tourism revenue, with a steep drop in hotel bookings, flight reservations, and local retail spending. The tourism-dependent economy in Hawaii is feeling the pain, especially on islands like Oahu and Maui. Popular attractions like Waikiki Beach and the Pearl Harbor Memorial are seeing empty crowds during what should be peak tourist season. Travel Weekly reported that major resorts in Honolulu are running at 50% occupancy, with a notable absence of Canadian vacationers. Restaurants, shops, and cultural venues have also reported a significant drop in Canadian patronage, leaving many businesses struggling to survive. If this trend continues, Hawaii's tourism sector could face a devastating long-term recovery, threatening the livelihoods of thousands of workers in the hospitality, retail, and tourism industries. For an island economy so heavily reliant on international tourism, the ongoing slump in Canadian visitors could spell disaster. The collapse of Canadian tourism to the U.S. in 2025 is more than just a decline in visitors. It's an economic catastrophe for states across the country. From Florida's beaches to California's resorts, states that once thrived on international tourism are now facing billions in lost revenue, rising unemployment, and shuttered businesses. For these 10 states, the collapse of Canadian tourism is just the beginning. With $29 billion in lost tourism revenue projected for 2025, industries that depend on foreign travelers are scrambling to adapt. If this trend persists, a long-term economic recession could follow for tourism-driven economies. So, what's next? The reality is these states need a solution fast, or else they risk losing their positions as top global destinations forever. If you think this crisis could get even worse, hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll keep you informed as this tourism disaster unfolds.